Why isn't the new Avatar trailer doing better on social media? I think it's a couple of reasons. The first is that, unfortunately, it trickled out as a release. It leaked about a week or so ago, and a lot of people watched it. And then, of course, it played all weekend long in front of Fantastic Four, where I think is probably the best place to experience it, particularly in 3D. One of the reasons, I'm seeing so many people today saying, oh, this franchise again, I'm over this franchise sucks. And you see all the negative comments and you're like, how on earth is it that this franchise is a multi-billion-dollar franchise, the most successful franchise, I think arguably in film history. And I think it's because James Cameron, Jimmy C, has created an experience. It demands to be seen in the theater. He literally transports you to an alien planet because of the quality of the visuals, the animation, and then also the 3D. And there was, it was cutting edge 3D when the first movie came out, and it was cutting edge 3D when the last movie came out. And so part of my concern is, how much will he be able to present as big a jump forward in technology this time? But does he need to? One of my favorite quotes about the last movie was a joke quote, but it was hilarious. And that's like, rumor has it, if you throw popcorn at the screen while you're watching Avatar: Way of Water, a fish will actually eat it, in the movie. And it felt that real. It was, I saw the last one in Dolby 3D, and it was truly like going on a ride. And so I think that's one of the reasons that the movies, even though the stories are, I think they're getting better, but they're not the greatest, it's not getting nominated for best screenplay, but it's still, I think, a really incredible experience. But I think this trailer, not so much, especially if you watch it, on your phone, okay, right? Or like on a small screen. I think that this trailer was designed to impress in the theater in front of Fantastic Four and not to impress online, which was a mistake on the part of Disney marketing. I think there's no hook. There's these new Fire Ash people, but there's not enough of them. There's nothing to really grab onto about what's new. One of the negative comments that I saw from a number of you was, looks the same as the last movie, but it's got fire in it. So what are you talking about? Also, though, speaking of what's new is old, what's old is new again. Why do you think, by the way, it didn't trend that much today? Even though people have been very much anticipating this trailer. All right, but look, the posters are the same. It's a nod to the original, 2009 poster. That's really cool. I think that's, and I think not only is it a nice nod, but it shows how much, even for Jimmy C, pop culture has changed, right? The first one is very sensual. Neytiri is presented as this exotic, but also very beautiful alien. And then I think this new alien, this is, Navi, this is Varang, leader of the Ash people, also a female character, but presented, I think, more androgynous, not playing up, this like femininity. A lot of people felt the first movie, the very first Avatar, was a take on Pocahontas. And those people are right. But this, I think, is speaking more to, here's the thing. So I think that's I'm curious to see what you think of this, the similarities, but also the very noticeable differences between these two presentations. But the other thing is that James Cameron said he was going to get a little more political. He's going to highlight the good Navi versus the bad Navi. But maybe they don't obviously see themselves as bad. And I think a lot of us are like, I don't know if you want to get into the political space, Jimmy. That's tough. But I think it's always very interesting whenever I see people talking about Star Wars that everybody assumes that they're the rebellion and the other side is the Empire. And I always think that's very interesting. So, I think Superman, James Gunn, also got political and did not expect it to get as political as it did. I think the conversation around Superman is very interesting. But the point is that especially today, as I think the political and social landscape is, constantly shifting and, I think we're breaking a lot of new ground. You never know which way things are going to break. So I'm curious what, never, the old saying is never bet against James Cameron. People say that about Nolan now. But James Cameron, that's been the feeling about Cameron until, of course, he was in charge of the new Terminator and really dropped the ball there. But, let's see. This might be his most difficult balancing act yet. And, to tread into today's political landscape. And, let's see how he does. I think that politics also hurt Superman a little bit because of some of his comments that upset, the far right. So I think that might be slightly reflected in the box office of Superman. Well, we'll see. By the way, I also want to point out to you that the actress doing the motion capture for Varang, this new character opposite Zoe Saldana, is, and by the way, I saw one of you say that you refused to support a Zoe Saldana movie. I'm like, what did Zoe Saldana do? Is it because she was an Emilia Perez, maybe? I'm curious about that. I mean, again, it's a tough, it's a tough space right now. But this is Oona Chaplin, granddaughter of the one and only Charlie Chaplin. So that's interesting. Although, the actors of Avatar never get enough credit. Even Zoe Saldana, didn't get a lot of mileage out of being Neytiri. All right, so let's break this thing down. I think when you actually go into it, there's actually a lot here that doesn't necessarily come across when you first watch the trailer. Okay. I got my notes here to remember everybody's name. So we've got our flying mountains, and I think what's interesting is, I think James Cameron is highlighting the first two movies in the worlds that he focused on, air and then water. And they were, I particularly like The Last Experience. And there, this is Sigourney Weaver's character, Kiri, who is, the daughter of the scientist Grace. And, I think they really kind of are setting her up to almost be like a superhero on the planet Pandora, and that she is the Avatar. Speaking of Avatar, The Last Airbender, she maybe is going to have the power of Pandora. And so I think we're all just waiting for her to have those abilities. And I think I have a theory about some of the things she might already be doing. So I actually did not like this first shot because to me it seemed very green screeny. I didn't feel like they were actually in this environment. Whereas the rest of Avatar, these movies, seem so realistic. But this one, it seemed to me like they were very much in front of a screen for some reason. I just didn't work. Now, this, of course, is Loak, the most headstrong of Jake and Neytiri's children, and his love interest, Rhea, played by Bailey Bass, who was from the first season of Interview with the Vampire. And her role actually had to be recast so she could join Avatar. I don't know why Bailey Bass doesn't get more work. I think she's gorgeous and a wonderful actress if you've seen Interview with the Vampire. But again, that's the curse of Avatar. Actors don't get enough credit for the work that they do here. So maybe she shouldn't have abandoned Interview with the Vampire. Okay, so they're connecting. She's like, he's like, did you say something? I just am focused on you touching me. All right, I'm excited to see their romance progress. Now, here we go. I think this is the water people who've taken to the air. You're like, whoa, you got to stay in your zone, man. The air people are on the air and the water people are in the water. But we'll see exactly what's going on here. I mean, it's certainly beautiful. It really is still continue to be Screensaver the movie, right? And screensavers so often have that kind of world building where you're like, I don't know what's happening there, but it's beautiful. So that's crazy. So so here we go. This animal design is nuts. I feel it's just crazy. It's I'll certainly say it's interesting. So there's Kiri. That's a very nice dress outfit she has on. It's interesting to see, usually the Na'vi are anti-clothing. But, I'm curious to see why maybe it's because of her part human heritage to a degree, I guess. I wonder why she might be dressed that way. But it looks like is this the air tribe or the water tribe? I'm not sure, man. Okay. By the way, is this thing armed? That looks like maybe a bow and arrow that can be used if necessary there. Interesting. So they're literally flying off into the sunset. Now here is where the Ash people live. And you can see Quaritch, Stephen Lang's character, who now also, like Sigourney Weaver's character to a degree, has fully transferred over, and also like Jake, of course, to being a Na'vi. And he's going, I think, it's the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And he's like, these Ash people hate all the other Na'vi. Maybe they'll be my friend. And he's pretty angry too. He's got a lot of anger as well. So, it makes sense that he thinks they might get along. Now, as you can see, they live in a very barren place. Now, they've been starting to cover this movie, and in an interview, in the press, and so Oona Chaplin gave an interview with Empire, and she said that the Ash people of Pandora, they do not actually respect nature, which of course is, the most important thing to the other tribes because of a horrible incident. There was a natural disaster for their people. And so they feel like the planet has turned against them. So they're not going to celebrate the planet look what it's done to them. And, this is very interesting because, you might be like, well, why don't you leave this area if it's been devastated? However, just like that you're seeing with some scenarios today, sometimes people cannot leave their area and they're forced to deal. Sometimes it's because they feel they have a connection, emotional, historical to a piece of land. Sometimes, they're not welcome anywhere else. And so I'll be curious to see again, how people receive this and which groups they identify with, because James Cameron said he's not going to make it clear cut who's in the wrong necessarily. So that could be very interesting. So we'll see. We'll see if this movie can support that kind of a discussion. Because look how beautiful the rest of the planet is. They're like, doesn't glow over here. Now look at this. I think this is fascinating. These whales have piercings and stuff. I think that's such an interesting choice. Who's doing that? It can't be other whales. It's like Cars. The movie Cars, and you're like, who built all the stuff that the cars are using? Like there's a giant button for them to push with their wheel, and you're like, who made that? I guess those little things, the forklifts, are supposed to have that kind of more dexterity, but not to that level. But so yeah, I'm like, dude, who's doing the piercings for you guys? Maybe it's this tribe, this water tribe. So look, so this is interesting. There's Spider with Kiri. Some people think they're headed for romance. Some people feel they're just like brother and sister. We'll see. I have an interesting theory about them that we'll get to as we continue with this trailer. But right now he's wearing his mask because he's human and he needs that to be in the atmosphere of Pandora. But they're hunting something together. So are these two romantic couples? Is that the idea here? Two different romances? That's interesting. Again, so screensavery. But I like how their faces glow. That is pretty nice. Disney's like, can we make that? You can buy sparkle freckles, which are awesome. I forgot to see if they got them back in stock. Taylor Swift actually made them very popular. It was a beautiful story. Taylor Swift found out about them. She helped this woman's business, and this woman was like crying in her TikTok videos, saying how someone uploaded them to Twitter's, which is how I saw them. But, the woman was like, oh my God, you saved my business. And it was just wonderful. And so Disney should call her, or she should reach out to Disney and be like, we got to sell some Avatar freckles here because they're really great looking. So that's Kate Winslet. And so these are the adult. Oh no. So this is Jake, and he's still not getting along with Loak. Although, of course, Loak's brother died in the last movie. He was killed largely because of Loak's actions. So I think obviously that's going to weigh heavily on both of them. And this is a line a lot of people are gravitating towards, where Jake says, apparently Sam Worthington says that Jake is very unhappy in this movie, but not so unhappy that he can't turn to his wife and say, you can't live like this in hate, right? And I'm like, so he says in hate. And I'm like, she doesn't look that hateful. She looks okay. That's what she's thinking. She's like, I'm the one living in hate. They're having a typical couple fight. But that's a powerful message. Can you let that hate go? Well, turn them into that's supposed to be what defines the Ash people in Quaritch, right? Well, maybe it'll help them understand each other better. Ooh, maybe we can have a sophisticated conversation. So there's Quaritch. He's surrendering to the Ash people, being like, oh, do I have a deal for you guys? Everybody was saying that Sam Reed, in Interview with the Vampire, has such a slutty waist, which I thought was very funny and true, by the way, in the new season. And I'm like, these Na'vi have some slutty waists as well, right? So look, I don't see no mask on Spider. Do you? He doesn't have a mask, so I have a theory about this. I'll just tell you what it is, and I have evidence for it later in the trailer. I wonder if Kiri makes it so that he doesn't need a mask anymore. But I'm sure he's loving that. It makes him even more like the Na'vi. He's got those great tattoos. He's got the dreads. No one's accusing him of cultural appropriation. Everything's working for Spider. Except his dad's out there. So this is interesting. At first, I thought Kate Winslet's character was talking to her husband. And she's saying, if you can do something, do it, right? But in fact, you're going to see, so here you can see that this is the Water Clan clashing with the Fire Clan. And it looks like they have, that looks like Quaritch there with them. Okay, and Jake's trying to stop it. She says, you must act. And it's Kiri. Maybe Kiri's like, I think I might be able to stop this whole thing with my planet powers. Captain Planet, thank you very much. Nice to meet you. So I'm like, yes, I hope you do it in this movie. There's supposed to be 5 Avatar movies. Don't make me wait that long, Jimmy. So yes, we got some more human stuff still. Very cool. I like when James Cameron flexes those muscles that he's so good at with the Terminator and the Alien movies. There's Quaritch. Oh boy, look, poor Neytiri. How does she have any tears left at this point? That's how I bet she feels the same way. Now look at that. So here's Varang working it. Work at that, like, boy, as all of the Ash people are like, welcome to the runway. But look, she's like, that's a jaw of some sort of animal with teeth on it. That's crazy. So she like lives in its mouth. I love that. And she's got teeth. I think it looks great. All right. So she sure knows how to make an entrance. And you can see her, like her banshee, her version of a banshee back there. So yeah, pretty nice. Pretty nice. I wonder if maybe romance for Quaritch, right? Let's see. Let's see if their anger will bring them together. She does have crazy ex-girlfriend vibes, though. That might work for Quaritch. So look at this. So this is the other tribe. Very interesting. Lots of piercings. They've gone Mad Max over here. But I'm interested in this weapon that they have. I'm not sure why there's a split in the middle of it, although you can see that holds the other arrows, which are so long, almost like they're shooting spears. The upper arm strength that these ash Na'vi must have. That's incredible. You can see they're a little blue, but they cover themselves in ash, which is the different colorization. But Na'vi are still naturally blue. But they've rolled around in the ash. They're pretty upset. You guys are in need of a good spa day. Come to the Water Tribe. But yeah, so you can see, I'm very curious to see how these weapons work. Again, Jimmy C knows weapons. And I'll be curious to see how these operate. They could be super cool. All right. So here, maybe they get new weapons because there's Varang and her tribe going to meet with Quaritch. And he's like, look at the toys I have. Oh, did you see these walkers? And she's like, pretty nice. So she also can do this, though. She can manipulate fire. I thought that was pretty interesting. Clearly, No, I think what it is, my guess is, it's almost like gunpowder. Or maybe it's the ash. And what they do is she probably gets it on her fingers and then she can light that on fire. Because you can see some ash on her thumb there. And I think that would be my guess as to how it operates. Pretty good trick. It's going to look really great. In 3D, with the warmth of that fire, I think James Cameron can really get it to envelop you maybe in some shots. That's pretty neat. And also use it against the other tribes. There, he doesn't have a mask on either here. Doesn't fire need oxygen to burn? I wonder if maybe that's why. Maybe that's why they have to stay in that part of the planet, because there's a different atmosphere. I don't think you can have different parts of. That would be very interesting. I wonder, if fire can burn, you would think that humans could breathe. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's not, Carrie. I'm curious. We'll see what happens. So I love James Cameron. He's like, what if we had aliens with guns and they're like, you'd make billions of dollars. So here we go. And also human medical technology. But Neytiri's like, what about the children? So I'm like, don't bench Neytiri. But don't worry, they don't. She's going to come in with a vengeance. So Spider's in trouble. You can see. She's like, oh, your mask, what's happening? Maybe it's because they're in a different environment. Maybe because of the fire and he doesn't need it anymore. I'll be curious to see what happens. But I believe this is where he finds out he no longer needs it. So look at that. So this is the Ash people meeting up with the humans. They're like, hey, we both want to use this planet for ourselves. So that looks like quite the alliance there. But they both apparently hate Jake Sully. He's getting marched in. It's funny because it's this alien fantasy, but yet you very much have like that courtroom drama scene where, the defendant who's the wrongly accused, well, I don't know if he did it or not, being marched in front of everybody, like in the media circus. And then you can escape it on your Banshee, very peaceful. So she's like, we got to take care of this. We got to find a different way. There's that whale with his piercings. That guy's a boss. Speaking of being a boss, what a shot. So that is Neytiri and Jake with their tribe behind them. That's beautiful. That might be one of my favorite shots in the trailer. And they're going to fight Varang and her people for an aerial battle. Speaking of Star Wars, those are some of the best sequences in the Star Wars movies. Like, for instance, Rogue One. The whole third act is an aerial battle, and it's incredible. So that's going to be really neat. So Neytiri is a very good shot. And sure enough, look at this. So I love this. So before we get it off, you can see that's how they light their arrows. They carry fire with them in the air, which is really cool. So you can see they have like a little fire pit there right on their mounts, and they're able to light up that way. But Neytiri gets him. And here you can see some fighting on the floating mountains. That's a great use of them. Oh, look at Quaritch. He's gone full native. He's like, these are my people. Or maybe he's just doing it to win them over. We'll see. You never know with Quaritch. Looks good on him, though. So he's fighting Jake yet again. How many times are they going to Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker it up, man? At least Neytiri. So Loak, is he going to take the shot? Now here, though, I like this idea that Neytiri has her own person to fight now in Varang. So that's great. Before Neytiri was fighting Jake's battles, but now she's going to have her own battle, which I think is fantastic. And so, yeah, look at that. Crazy ex-girlfriend eyes, I'm telling you. Right? And so Varang has fire. And she's like, I don't care if I lose. Because I guess she feels she's already lost. She's got that, the most dangerous person to fight is someone who feels they have nothing left to lose. Did she shave the middle of her hair off there in the middle? Interesting fashion choices here, Ash people. Does she not have, I guess all the Na'vi have like fangs, right? I think it's interesting that Varang, despite having Fang basically in her name, never feels she needs to show hers off. That's interesting too. And so she has Kiri here, and she says, your goddess has no dominion here. I'd be like, want to bet just because you've forsaken the goddess of Pandora doesn't mean, that she's not there. Maybe Kiri will solve their problems for them. And that's how they'll win over the Ash people. They have a good smoky eye over there. I love a smoky eye. I'd be like, Varang, your makeup looks great. Where are you getting that from? And so there we go. Avatar, fire and ash. I hope it's good. Share those thoughts down below. Subscribe today. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.